All right, our next speaker is from AWS. He is the general manager of AWS Web Services, responsible for AWS's cloud management tools, and is the awesome AWS lead heading up OpsWorks, the partnership between Chef and AWS, the partnership between our two great companies. Please join me in welcoming Siva to the stage.
Good morning. I'm honored to be with you all today. I love the theme of the conference. This is very near and dear to me. I have been personally working with Chef for over 7 years now. We share a lot of principles and values together. As I go through this thing, I think a lot of things that I'm going to talk to you is going to resonate with you well. So in my job, I talk to a lot of customers, many of them, almost in every sector and with all levels, from technical folks to all the way to C-level folks. So one of the question that we hear commonly is, it's not about the tools and specific things. The customers ask me, how can we be like you? At AWS, we are very passionate about innovating on behalf of the customers, and the pace of innovation is important, timing is important, DevOps. So I thought of using this as an opportunity and very relevant in the current context to dive deep there. About me. So general manager at AWS, responsible for a set of services that are listed here. When I am not working, you can find me coding in PowerShell. Why PowerShell? I used to be at Microsoft as director there, and one of the tools that my team built is PowerShell. Before joining Amazon, the last version of PowerShell is PowerShell Desired State Configuration. Launched it with that. Then, love hiking. 2 recent pictures from last week. So the first one is a close bear encounter last Friday. I was in Shenandoah. That was fun. And the bottom picture is from Alpine Lakes, Annette Lake. It's about 45 minutes here. Very serene, blissful. I can just sit there and stare at it for hours together. Maybe we should create an open source community in the Alpine Lakes. So let's start with the problem. The need for governance is ever increasing. Security requirements, compliance regimes requirements, and the governance is increasing. For companies to stay competitive, there is pressure to innovate, pressure to be agile, pressure to deliver more and faster, right? This means for an IT is being pushed in multiple directions. That's the challenge, right? Like there is a trade-off between agility and the trade-off between ever-increasing governance and meeting the security things. So these are often are at odds. If you push on one dimension, we may have to compromise on the other one. We had the same challenge at Amazon since it started like a couple decades ago. But we took this thing of how do we do both? How can we achieve both? And it turns out that we can do this thing. So that's going to be the theme of the discussion today. And you has heard from Barry yesterday with a slightly different terminology as velocity. So we are all trying to achieve the same thing. So the goal for me today is to more talk about the principles of what enables us to be successful and share them with you, removing that it's not based on a specific process, it's not based on a specific tool or so. Hopefully you can take these learnings with you and apply wherever you are. So these are automate everything, architect for change, right culture, innovate and collaborate, and open source. So these are based on Amazon's own experience, feedback and collaborations with customers, and based on my experience in observing them. Starting with automate everything. Heard from Barry yesterday. This is also in his first list. So I wanted to take a slightly different pivot on this thing, which is, why do we automate? What drives it, right? In the past, when we had a waterfall-based model, it's like the deployments happen once in a quarter or once in 6 months or a yearly basis. The need for automation is not that high. Whereas with agility, we need to push changes faster and faster and faster. And if we want to deploy changes daily and frequently, means that the system needs to be repeatable, especially as you are migrating to the cloud. Cloud enables a whole bunch of new use cases, and it enables you to do things in a much, much more dynamic way, more agile way. Means that repeatability at scale becomes an important thing. And the way that you achieve repeatability is by automation, okay? So, which we all know. So the things that I want to highlight, a few of them, is how do you automate, or the principles or the concepts of automating this thing. So that the automation that you do is much more repeatable. Small changes and continuous deployment is a key aspect of that. So when you make the changes small and deploy it continuously, if something fails, it's very easy to pinpoint what failed, and hence it can be rolled back or fixed, whatever, in a short period of time. The next one is the desired state or idempotent style of programming, okay? This is something that was insightful to me. I personally have struggled to understand the difference between these two things many, many years ago. One of the things that my team built was an agent software. And over the periods, the agent needs to be robust and robust thing. So over the years, what turned out to be is the more code was written in agent that had to deal with all the corner cases and recovering from error cases and all that stuff. The main logic became smaller and smaller, okay? So on the other hand, when you adopt like a desired state kind of a model, or even use imperative but idempotent way of coding this thing, what that enables is you write a program that does a set of things, and it checks first, is the system in the state? If so, do nothing. If not, fixes it. And along the way, if it hits any glitches or glitches and it fails, then all you need to do is rerun it. All of a sudden, the program becomes simpler. The number of corner cases and error conditions that needs to be handled goes way down. Of course, like everything as code has been thematically, you've been hearing this thing again and again, so I'm not going to touch upon that. Pessimistic view. So for the most part, you find me a strong advocate of being very optimistic, can-do attitude, kind of a thing. But in this one particular case, when there is tests involved in the, along the deployment, pessimistic view helps. So you want to validate the corner cases in a way that if something is not happy, it gets kicked out. For example, when my team writes code for my services, a developer checked in code, it goes all the way through the pipeline. We have a very sophisticated pipeline that just keeps going in a continuous way. And the way that we feel confident that it just works is because our testing is so good that if something is not right, it gets kicked out. So as you are automating things, you step up at a system level. How do you put things together? What's the architecture? And the key component of that is we all know things evolve over time. What you see today is not going to be exactly the same as today 2 or 3 years from now. New things come up. How do you put things in place, an architecture in place that is able to adopt it in a way so that you are in the leading front and cutting edge always? So think about building blocks. Think microservices and building blocks so that you compose them together in a way that if you're not happy or if you get something new, you should be able to relatively easy to pick and replace them. The other component is choice. At least this is true from an AWS perspective, right? Since we have customers from diverse segments and with all different styles or passion or religious things or whatever you call it, right? So we are very focused on providing the customer choice. That way, you could pick the best tool to solve any particular problem. And likewise, if you, for many of you guys who are in the process of providing services to your users, whether it's internal or external users, choice might be an interesting one to think about. So after automation, the next one is humans. People play an important role in achieving agility. Okay? So this means that how do you break the silos? How do you break this thing? So the way you do this thing is you start with a common shared goal. Right? It's not a discipline-specific goal. It's more of a company thing. It's more of a cross-discipline goal that we all get together with a common outcome. Whether it could be a customer problem or it could be a business outcome-related one. Everybody rallies into a single one in solving this one. Sometimes I get into this discussion that, especially at an operator level, as we are automating, there's a concern that, my job might be going away. In fact, what I noticed in my own experience observing a lot of these folks is it's the opposite. You will be more relevant. You will be more relevant solving the problem. So I had this culture shock when I joined Amazon 5 years ago. The security team, as an example, security team in AWS, very strong team, extremely deep security folks. Okay? They are involved in every release that we do here. But there's a huge difference of how the security team works with the development organization. They're not considered as a blocker. They all share this thing. We have to ship with high quality. So when an issue is found, the engineers and the security folks come together. How do we ship on time and without compromising the security thing? So we need both. So once you have the right culture, the innovation naturally follows. Collaboration naturally follows, right? So start with the right culture that leads to innovation, and innovation is a key for long-term success. Collaboration helps both internally, within the team, in the company inside, and more importantly, externally. And in a lot of cases, collaboration with ideas gives 1 + 1 = 3. And open source is such a powerful and wonderful medium for fostering these kind of collaborative ideas. And these days, tools like GitHub and Slack and all these things have built these features so nicely that this further fosters this environment. So motivation for AWS. Why do we do open source? Why are we deeply invested in this thing? Okay? It all starts from customer obsession. The work that we do is 90% of the features that we build starts from customers and solving a customer problem. Technology does not drive us, but the customer problem is. Right? We use technology to solve a customer problem, but not the other way. So to put it bluntly, we do open source because our customers are asking for it. That's a big part of it. So in addition to innovation and collaboration that I just talked about it, teams at AWS also has realized by partnering with communities helps reduce the maintenance costs as well. And lastly, and more importantly, is open sourcing helps increase the quality and the security. More eyes looks into the code, better things. So as a result, you can see us contributing to Linux, Kubernetes that you heard about it before, and sometimes when there are when we have innovated early, then we share that with the open source, like Firecracker, which I'll be touching upon a bit later. Or we contribute to the open source to our customers, like Netflix, Spinnaker. So we are proud to be part of many, many open source projects, actively participating in them, and many of our services leveraging them in various shape or form. Our customers are using them. So you can see us to be more actively participating as we go forward as well. And we are part of many communities. For example, we are the member of Linux Foundation, Platinum at CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and we are Tier 1 at OSCon. Again, like everything we do, since open source is such a foundational for us, you will see us more and more in this thing. So now let's get into a few examples of open source, just to get flavor. ML. As you know, there are many, many frameworks in ML. So TensorFlow is an example of that. So customers asked for TensorFlow on AWS. So we want to make AWS the best place to run TensorFlow. So when we took this stock thing and ran the TensorFlow on 256 GPUs, we got about 65% scaling. So then we put engineering and R&D on it, and we were able to push it to near linear scale. We are able to achieve like over 90% scaling. That's an example of that thing, right? Like, so regardless of what the innovation is, as things evolve, we want to make sure that we are contributing to it in a way and make AWS the best place to run it. And in some places, we innovate where there is a need and an equivalent thing is not available. Containers are beautiful. Okay? It provides fast startup. It provides nice way of packaging. Okay? But containers themselves is not a security boundary. What I mean by that is we can't run, or we should not run, 2 containers from 2 different tenants inside the same virtual machine, since container is not considered as a security boundary. AWS runs Lambda and Fargate at an immense scale. So when you think about it, the number of virtual machines that is needed to run them separately in everything, so that necessitated for us to innovate here, to drive our own efficiencies. That's where we invented Firecracker, which achieves both. It's a micro VM technology where you get fast startup, and it is also a VM-like security boundary. So in this case, we did it fast, and we shared it with the community. Amazon Corito. It's a downstream distribution of OpenJDK. So customers have asked us to support OpenJDK for a longer time. So we created this downstream distribution at no cost and are offering that security and other support-related things to our customers, this thing. Internally, our own services are already using Corito at scale. My services are using it, so it should work for you as well. It's just a drop-in replacement. So now let's look at how we partner with Chef. As I said, we share a lot of values, and we work closely together on many, many fronts. And a couple of examples I'm going to highlight today. One is AWS Systems Manager and Chef Inspec. Okay? So AWS Systems Manager is an operations cockpit. It's a cloud-native service. It supports both Windows and Linux, and it supports both AWS and non-AWS. It offers capabilities like patch management, remote execution. The key unique thing that it brings to table, in addition to being that single pane of glass, is the scale. Whether it uses like 10 instances or 100,000 instances that come and go, it just works from a scale perspective. Whereas Chef Inspec does represent compliance as code. So the marriage between these two things, now you can apply your profiles, community profiles, and leverage the systems manager to execute at scale. The next one is OpsWorks for Chef Automate. So you guys all are familiar with Chef Automate. So what OpsWorks brings is it makes the same thing that you are used to and make it more cloud-like. Okay? What I mean by cloud-like is things that you see on the screen. It's a pay-as-you-go, meaning if you are managing like 1,000 instances, for example, for a few hours and they come and go, you just pay for the 2 hours for the Chef license fee as opposed to paying it for a longer period. Pay as a go. It's a managed service. That means that we take care of the upgrades. We monitor that 24/7, backup, restore, support, etc. So these are the collection of management tools, services that we offer at AWS. These follow the principles that we discussed. It helps you to adopt them in a natural fashion. This includes the OpsWorks and Systems Manager that we touched a bit earlier. And many of these services are started from our own innovation, from what we have done internally. And we are externalize them, and some more are coming on its way. Bringing them all together, recapping, right? We can achieve governance and agility together. And the set of principles that worked for us, and hopefully that should work for you as well, is automate everything. And we discussed about a set of principles within why we need to automate, and the set of things to write automation in a simplified way. And we talked about architecting for change. That way you can keep adopting the new things as they come. Right culture is the key for agility, which also helps with innovation and collaboration. And open source is a great medium, and everything that you hear here in this conference is super exciting about the open source related stuff. Thank you for listening. Thank you.